The best way to learn English is to practice daily with a good story. And today's story shows that in a world that measures value in signed contracts and quarterly results, what is the price of a moment of pure wonder? This is the story of a man whose job was to create the impossible, and his quest to believe that this in itself was enough. We invite you to stay with us, using this story not just for inspiration, but as an elegant way to enhance your vocabulary and your listening comprehension in English. Our story takes us to the top of a Manhattan skyscraper at a corporate event where the air shimmered with success. And there, moving among the titans of industry, was Marcus. He was an illusionist, a master of close-up magic. With a deck of cards and the dexterity of a surgeon, he transformed skepticism into admiration. The reactions were always the same: a gasp of astonishment, a quick round of applause, and then the immediate return to conversations about mergers, stock exchanges, and the financial market. To the guests, he was a welcome amusement. To himself, Marcus felt like a human curiosity, a disposable marvel. And on that night, the feeling crystallized into a phrase he overheard, spoken by a CEO right after a conjuring act that had taken years to perfect. "Reprise, a nice trick to liven up the evening." The casualness of those words, the reduction of his art to a simple trick, was the silent confirmation of his greatest fear. In a world of serious things, he was just trivial. Weeks later, with the echo of that night still in his mind, Marcus received an invitation that took him out of his usual circuit. It wasn't a corporate party, but an intimate soiree at the perfume atelier of the enigmatic Elizabeth, a legend in the world of bespoke perfumery. She was known for creating fragrances that weren't just scents, but liquid biographies. Her atelier in SoHo was not a shop. It was a sanctuary. The air was dense with the scent of dark wood, exotic spices, and memories distilled in hundreds of glass vials. It was a place of substance and history, the exact opposite of Marcus's ephemeral world. He performed for a small group who watched not with fleeting astonishment, but with a focused, silent attention. After the last trick, Elizabeth approached to congratulate him. "Thank you," Marcus replied without much emotion in his voice. "I'm just doing my usual work, my tricks." She noticed the self-deprecation in his voice, and then her eyes analyzed him with a calm intensity. "Marie, you don't manipulate cards," she said, her voice as complex as her perfumes. "You manipulate attention. It is a rare and powerful art. No one had ever described his art that way." Elizabeth's validation, so precise and unexpected, disarmed Marcus's defense. "Marie," and there, in that temple of essences, he confessed what he felt, that his rare art in the real world seemed to be worth less than a business conversation. Elizabeth listened with the patience of an alchemist. In response, she didn't offer words of comfort, but an invitation. "Marie, let me show you my art." She led him to her perfume organ, a semicircular console with hundreds of vials containing essences from all over the world. First, she dipped a blotting strip into a rose oil, and then into a sandalwood oil, classic and universally pleasant aromas. "With these," she said, "I can create a perfume that everyone will like, but that no one will remember. It's safe, it's predictable." Then, she picked up a small dark glass vial. The aroma that emanated from it was completely different. It was earthy, animalic, almost medicinal. "Marie, this is oud," she explained, seeing the strangeness on Marcus's face. "On its own, many find it harsh, it doesn't fit the standards, it's not a safe scent." And then, she performed her magic. With the precision of an illusionist, she took a single drop of oud and blended it with the familiar notes of rose and sandalwood. Marie. She offered the new blotting strip to Marcus. The transformation was astounding. The perfume was no longer just pleasant. It was complex, deep, mysterious, and absolutely unforgettable. The strange note hadn't spoiled the blend, it had given it a soul. Marie. Marcus stood in silence, inhaling the complex fragrance. It wasn't just a scent, it was an emotion, a story told without words. He finally looked up at Elizabeth, full of a question he didn't know how to formulate, but that his gaze screamed. Marie. Elizabeth smiled, as if she read the question in his eyes. A masterpiece, she said softly, is not about creating something everyone likes. It's about blending the familiar with a note so unique that it becomes unforgettable. The strange note, Marcus, is where the true magic lies. It is the artist's signature. Marie. She then gestured toward him, with the same care she held her most precious vials. Your magic is the oud, Marcus. In a room full of predictable conversations about the market and profits, you are the strange and unforgettable note. Marie. Your purpose is not to be the entire perfume. It is to be the element that transforms an ordinary gray evening into a vibrant memory. You are not a distraction from what is important. You are the reminder that life is also made of wonder and mystery. Marie. Elizabeth's words fell upon Marcus, not as a compliment, but as a permission. The permission to be exactly what he was. In that moment, he understood. Marie. He had spent his life trying to measure himself with other people's rulers, trying to fit into a world of common sense, when his true value, his true strength, resided precisely in his uniqueness. He was not trivial, he was rare. Weeks later, Marcus found himself once again at the top of a Manhattan skyscraper, at a corporate event that was almost identical to the one that had shaken him. The same sound of business conversations, the same expensive suits, the same atmosphere of calculated success. Marie. But if the setting was the same, the artist was not. Marcus no longer walked among the guests with the posture of someone apologizing for existing. He no longer sought approval in their eyes. He understood his function there. Marie. He was not a distraction. He was the note of oud, the touch of mystery on a predictable night, the spark of wonder in a world governed by logic. His magic was the same, but the intention behind it had changed. Marie. Each card that vanished, each coin that traveled from one hand to another, was no longer a trick to elicit quick applause. It was an invitation. Marie. An invitation for those minds, so focused on profits and losses, to stop for an instant and remember the beauty of the impossible. At the end of his performance, a stern-looking CEO, the same type of man who would have previously dismissed him with a casual compliment, approached. Marie. He said nothing for a moment, just observed Marcus with a gaze that was at once curious and nostalgic. Marie. Thank you, the man finally said, and his voice was surprisingly genuine. Marie. I haven't felt that sense of wonder since I was a child. Marcus just nodded, with a grateful and sincere smile. He no longer needed the grand applause. Marie. That small confession was enough. Marie. He had left his mark, not on a contract, but in a memory. The unforgettable scent of his art, which would linger long after the city lights went out. Marie. Marcus's story is a reminder that the world is already full of predictable scents. Marie. True value is not in blending in, but in being the strange note that transforms the ordinary into something unforgettable. Marie. Your uniqueness is not your flaw, it is your signature. Marie. If this lesson resonated with you, leave a comment below telling us what is your strange note, that quality you now understand is your greatest strength. Like and share this video so that more people remember the value of their own magic. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that help you learn English. Larry. Until next time, embrace your uniqueness, trust in your art, and leave an unforgettable trail.